Hello, thanks for joining the channel. Today's video is about vintage lenses being used with modern cameras by way of what we refer to as dumb adapters. These adapters have no electronics associated with them, and they do not operate any automatic functions of the lens. So therefore, focus and f-stop aperture are done manually. What we have is basically a well-machined ring. In this case, this is for a Canon FD lens into a Micro Four Thirds camera. So how this works, and we're going to start with this one because this one's the most complicated to use, as I've found. The first thing you need to do is take the adapter and mount it to the camera, red dot to red dot. Now this can be done off the camera, but with this particular mount, using the Canon FD system, it's a little complicated. So now we take the Canon lens. The red dot matches up with the red dot on the mount, and then this little ring is turned, and that locks the lens to the adapter. Then we can turn that into the lock mode, and we're done. And at this point, we now have full aperture control and focus. And this works out really great if you just want to play around with these vintage lenses. The adapters are very inexpensive, around $20 a piece. So this is the first one that I use a few times, Canon FD to Micro Four Thirds. Now a couple of the other versions that we have here, this is one that's a little bit more obscure. This is a DKL to NEX. A DKL is a German mount, or used sometimes in Russia, but usually over in Eastern and Western Germany, to an NEX. NEX is the same thing as Sony E-mount. So the way this one works is, again, we have a Sony E-mount on one end, and then we have a little button over here that we need to push, which allows us to remove the lens. Now, on this particular lens, there is a really small divot right here on the lens. And when you're mounting this to the adapter, again, red dot to red area on the lens, it slides over, and we can actually look inside and see that little pin fall right into that slot, and that locks it on. This is a very, very secure system. To remove it, you need to push this button here, which relieves that little pin, and you can take the lens off. Very nice system. Made in Germany, what do you expect? Most nice things come from Germany. Anyways, this is the, in this case, the DKL to NEX system. Because it's a Sony mount, E-mount, a regular Sony E-mount mount cap, goes right on. The next one that we have, and this is a little strange setup that I have, I bought this lens with the adapter. Now this is EF to Micro Four Thirds. So this is Canon EF to Micro Four Thirds, but this lens is a screw mount lens. To get the mount off the lens, we pull back on this little lever, which unlocks it, and we can just simply turn it off. But the person that had this lens before me actually put another adapter on the lens, which is a simple Canon to screw mount adapter. Not sure why he did that, but he did. Obviously, I could take this Canon adapter off and simply attach the screw mount adapter to it. So that's one way to attach a screw mount adapter to your lens. The other way is by simply using a screw mount adapter. This is a Super Takumar Pentax lens, and this is a simple screw mount adapter. Now, one thing interesting about these screw mount adapters, because they don't have a real positive register when you mount your lens to them, the aperture and the focal length could be anywhere. So these adapters come with a small Allen wrench. You just put that in there. You turn each one of these 3 Allen screws about 1 revolution. And then you can rotate the back part of the mount. So in this case, we're going to mount this on a Sony body. And if I want that to line up properly with the top of the camera, we just line it up, then we put our little Allen wrench in, and we just, you don't have to go crazy. It's all aluminum, be careful, you can strip it. Just give it a little turn on all 3 sides. And that locks it in. From this point on, it's a simple matter of removing the lens. Now, if you have a lot of screw mount lenses, I suggest you buy individual screw mount adapters for each lens. They're only $18 to $20 on Amazon. And this way here, you're not constantly turning these little screws, which by the way is aluminum, wearing them out. I can imagine that would happen after a number of times. I would suggest just simply buying adapters and leaving them on the lens. So that's screw mount adapters. We also have the Minolta mount, which in this case is the MD or the MC. They're both the same. This is probably the simplest adapter because it's a simple twist on. So in this case, this is the Minolta MD to Micro Four Thirds. And again, red dot to red dot, it just simply lines up. You can do it off the camera. And then once you have that done, it's just a simple matter of mounting the lens to the camera, just like you would a normal lens. And again, if you have a lot of MD, MC lenses, you might just want to put an adapter on each one. Not as critical as the screw mount, but there is a certain amount of wear and tear by taking these on and off. It's your call. And lastly, we have a Helios 44M2 Russian lens, and this is once again screw mount. And again, this is the M42 mount to Micro Four Thirds. Same situation with this. Once you have it mounted, you're going to want to turn those little set screws and line this up properly. This is the other issue. Just make sure you don't cross thread this when you're putting it on. Again, we're dealing with aluminum. Very easy to strip things. And that gives you your full focus and your f-stops. So I hope this helps if you're starting to or thinking about using vintage lenses on your modern cameras with all these different types of adapters. And there are many, many different vendors for these adapters. The Photosay, or Photosay, however you say that, they make an amazing selection. I use mostly them, but every once in a while you'll find an adapter that they don't have available. And this company, Hoag, makes adapters. In this case, it's a QBM to NEX. The QBM adapters are used on like the Rollei, the Pentax. And in this case, this is a QBM adapter, but similar to all the rest. Little button to lock it on once it's on. And then this one is Rollei QBX to NEXR Sony E mount. And then there's another company here that makes a DKL, I'm sorry, adapter for these German Russian lenses. So there you have it. I hope this helps in your journey to using vintage lenses with modern cameras. Thanks for watching the video. Have a great day.